Our guest of honor here tonight is a POW from the Korean War. He's Mr. Emmett Harrison. He's from Bristol, and he wanted to come and say a few words to us, and I guess kind of explain some of the things that some of the other family members that were lucky enough that their fathers and uncles and brothers and whomever came home and maybe got to share with you. But at this time, if Mr. Harrison to come up.
Yes, I'm coming up.
Emmett Harrison. Korean War veteran. I was taken prisoner in 1951 and was held until 1953. But anyhow, I'll tell a little later. I went to basic Camp Pickett in 1950. Went to Korea and hit there in April 13, 51, and got captured May the 18th, 51. It wasn't good, you know. Our food was bad, but by the grace of God, we made it. Yeah, that was, I got captured May the 18th, and then we got back to Canada June 27th, and they started the peace talks July the 10th, 51, and there we sat, we were hoping, you know, they'd sign the armistice tomorrow so we'd get to go home. And 2 years later, they signed the armistice, you know. And that whole camp met at the parade ground, or whatever you want to call it. And the camp commander, he had always had an interpreter, you know. But that day, he didn't do that. They signed the armistice at 10 o'clock in the morning. And at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we went up to the parade ground, and he told us, he said, well, they signed the armistice this morning, and you men will be going home. Now that was a pretty good day, you know. That was the first night that I had laid down. One night, we was laying in bed, and then one of them little Korean villages, you know, and I don't know how many men were there, 1,300, I guess. They just kicked the Chinese, just booted the Koreans out, and they took over the town, and then they used it as prison camp, you know. And we had, they had medic, you know, on sick call, and I had an abscess tooth. I went up there and they put that toothache drops on it until my jaw was bleached out, and then one day when I woke up and my jaws were froze. I couldn't open my mouth, you know. They said, you know, if you get lockjaw, it'll kill you. Well, it will if you don't get rid of it. So anyhow, they got me. Well, the Chinese was friendly with England, you know, even though they had a whole brigade, another camp with joining theirs, and they traded, I'm sure. I wrote a letter to my mother in August, I think in August, and she got it, I think, in November, I believe, and told her that I was a prisoner of war, you know. And that's the first time they had heard about me. And And she wrote a letter and it went to San Francisco, and they stopped it, and then they got in touch with her and asked her where did she tell her to get the letter. And so now you can figure what was the result of that. That's what I think, that's my opinion. And anyhow, we had one wood detail, went up to the woods and cut. Well, we was in a valley, but there were mountains all the way around us, And that's where we went on wood detail, and then GI, they started, marijuana grew wild everywhere, and they start having a little pole about 6 to 8 foot long and have a bunch of marijuana on each end of it. And so then the Chinese stopped us from going on wood detail, That was a no-no. I didn't smoke much. I smoked one cigarette and I had nothing to do with me. This man, he was in the camp with me, and I've seen him at Ken Lake, later on in life. But anyhow, he was sitting over there in this room. There wasn't nobody in there. They had a little wooden stool we sat on, and he was looking at me. Every time I'd look at him, he'd be looking at me. And here I'd went up, then I got out and went up the street. Nobody couldn't see me. That's what I want no more of that stuff. If I want to enjoy it, but they get that, and they'd eat, and it's just like they're eating steak, That's what it gives you the munchies, Well, I guess that's the way a lot of them made it, But now you had to have the want to inside. You had to, because one night I was laying in that bed right on the corner. Well, there was about 8 or 10 of us in that room. And at one time we had to sleep head to foot. That's the only way we could sleep in them little rooms. They wasn't very big, maybe 8 by 8 or something like that. And I know you've seen them pictures on the movie about the doors and stuff when you see a Japanese movie or when it's made. Now that's what our doors were made out of, so you can figure out how much cold weather it kept out. Wake up and there's about 2 inches of frost on the walls, So we had the cotton padded uniforms they made for us. Now when the Koreans had them in, that was different, They took their stuff, It was, I can understand why they would hate us, But it's the same thing that happened to us. We would be just like them, That one night, that plane come through up the street. Now you see, I'm going back 70 years now, 67 years. But you have to realize that's a lot to think about, I don't dwell on it, I think about it and talk to somebody. And I've never really talked like this. I'm glad to ask me this year, because next year, we just don't know, I said that God was keeping it around for some people, some reason, that He wanted me to be around maybe as a testimonial, let you know what there that it is possible, what can happen. So I asked him one night if I would ever see my mother again. I wanted to know. So a little bit later, I had a dream, and we lived in a house up on Russell Street, and I dreamed I was going up the steps, and I was in uniform, and I opened the screen door. Then you didn't have air conditioning back in the 50s, you just didn't do it. Not in our neighborhood. And anyhow, I walked in this little hallway there, and had the living room on one side and the bedroom on the other. And I opened that screen door and there my mother with her arms stretched out just exactly like I had dreamed. So I know that I have a higher power, you know. He's in my corner, been there a long time. I was designated as having emphysema in 1967. My oxygen tank's back there on the table, see? So, I mean, you know, God has all power. I mean, you could line me up against the wall and shoot me if I deny the God of my understanding. I say, go ahead and pull it. Because I know I've got a better place to go, you know. Now this is my own philosophy. Everybody has whatever they want, you know. But anyhow, we had the first year it was real rough. They made us sit out in the road and eat our meals, you know. It didn't have no fences around us, just guards, you know. But you got 300 miles of mountains, Chinese and Koreans, and where you going? You know, the peace talks had started and they may sign it tomorrow. So I don't know of anybody that escaped from there, you know. But anyhow, I figured they done us pretty good, you know. A lot better than Vietnam, you know. I don't see how I swear I don't see how they made it, you know. But I know that. I know how they made it, you know. But anyhow, when we was on the way back to camp, see, I'm dodging in and out, you know. We was on our way back to camp. We got captured on the 18th of May, and it rained that night, and there we was sitting up on that hill with a burp gun in our face. And then the next day we went on over into a draw, I mean, you know, and they interrogated us, you know, their name and whatever, you know. And then we walked, I mean, you know, we'd walk at night and stay in the cover under trees or whatever in the daytime. And so they throwed artillery, we was that close to the front line, they throwed artillery in the little valley. And so here we got out and hauled it, you know, couldn't stay in there. So, and then another night, we'd walk every night. We'd walk all night long, and then they'd get a village and they'd put us in there and give us something to eat, and it was what they fed us, it was like a little starter feed for chicken. I reckon ground up soybeans, I don't know, but it didn't have much of taste. And you didn't even have no salt for it. They used that old rock salt like you put on driveways, you know. And that's what the Chinese use. But one night we was in another big bunker, you know, there's a bunch of us in there. And they had some white rice in it. Some Chinese had, and you got to buy that white rice, you know. That's like, you know, like Christmas coming in July. So, but anyhow, we went on and then they started feeding us. They called it sardine, and it was canned seed, I guess, as far as I know. But it was right blue, you know. And sometimes they'd put potatoes in it, and sometimes they'd kill a hog and split it up in a monster can and give us a little side dish with a fork, you know. Then I don't remember getting any beef. Oh, they give us some there at the last, in 53, they started giving us this canned pork, I guess what it was, or beef, you know. It was good. And, but anyhow, then it's hard to go back, you know. They had a hospital up there that they took the sick. I never did go up there. I just got, when they give me that shot of penicillin for my jaw, and I come back and laid down. I hadn't rested in I don't know how long, you know. I got up the last night I walked around the area, and they boiled our water, you know, to kill whatever, and that we drank. And I'd go by the water kitchen where they boiled it in big iron pots, and I'd get me a cup of that hot water or warm water, and I put it in my mouth and swash it around and spit it out. And that's the only thing I get to relieve it, you know. But then I went up that morning, I went up there. I told them to either take me out and shoot me or take me and get the tooth pulled. And they took me and got the tooth pulled. And I was honest with them, you know. I just had about all that I could take. I can understand why people commit suicide, you know. But anyhow, I didn't, by the grace of God, you know. But anyhow, it wasn't like Hogan's Hero, but I can tell you that, you know. It was cold there, I mean 30 and 40 below zero, up in houses, and where they heated it, they had a fire on one end of the house, and had this hose going through the floor, and that heat, that smoke would come through there, and that's what so you can imagine how much heat we got. So, but that, I tell you, that was two real bad winters, you know. But anyhow, then they started getting, after the peace talk started, they started exchanging letters. And then the winter of 52, at Christmas, they let us send cards. I mean, we had to fold them, you know, and they'd read them, and we could send what we wanted, who we had no their address, you know, the card. And I wrote this lady that I was sort of going with or whatever, I don't know, before we went out, and I was sort of done, you know, slow learner. But anyhow, I wrote her a letter, and it come to Bristol, and then it had return to sender on it. I'd rather it's tore it up, you know. But I never, when I come back, I never did see her. Of course, she went somewhere I didn't know where that was. If I'd known where it was at, I'd been going there, you know, but I didn't. So I guess that was good. Her husband, man, I liked it, you know. But I did go see one, and her husband, he didn't say nothing, you know. But anyhow, it was an experience that you don't forget. And now the POW organization, they got their charter in 1982, and they got it at Louisville, Kentucky. And I was there when they got their charter. And then when we started, I hadn't seen nobody for 20 years. And they got together in Missouri. I can't even think now, you know. And Springfield, Illinois. That's where it was at. And me and this friend of mine, he lived in North Carolina, and I'd seen him at Louisville, Kentucky. I told him, he said, "You don't remember me?" And I told him something that he said. He said, "Yeah." But we were close, you know. You heard when somebody passed away. They wasn't all that many that I knew after you know, they started peace talks. But this one man, he just gave up, you know. And after I got home, well, my picture was in the paper for her for I think 2 or 3 days. And people called me, you know, and he called and I talked to him and about his brother. And I said, he just gave up, you know, just lost, you know, interest in life. And when they done that, you might as well just go ahead and dig a hole for them because they're not going to do it. I never did lose the will to live. I wanted to live and to get back on. going to see my loved ones. And freedom that. I don't know whether you remember the movie Sally Fields played in Not Without My Daughter. Now, I watched Hallmark Channel, and I think that she married when they made that, and she had a little boy and a girl, and so he got to keep the little boy, and she finally got through and come back, and she seen the American flag there, and she knew she'd home. Well, when I walked through that Freedom Gate, they left, I guess, about the 10th of August. And they had us put us on we rode trucks for a day and a night. And we got up across the river. And then they put us on trains up there, and we rode 2 nights and 2 days. And we got down to Hannah, and I walked across that bridge at Freedom Gate, you know. They had us in them trucks, and I got out. And, well, we was on train, and then they put us on trucks and hauled us over, you know, from the train station. But I got up, and they released so many men every day, you know, every day they released so many, you know. And we got in there that afternoon, and they lined us up outside the boxcars, and they needed 3 more men. They got me and 2 more men, and put us in the truck and took us over and released us. And I was one of the first ones that they released in Operation Big Switch. They had Operation Little Switch in March, I think, of '53. And then that Big Switch, and then they started releasing the prisoners. And I was the 999th man released in Operation Big Switch. So I can remember 9. Some days, I can remember dates, you know, like I got into Incheon on the 13th of April, and I got captured the 18th of May, so I wasn't there too long, a month and 5 days, you know. Went up to the front lines when I first got there, and then we was up there 2 or 3 days, and then we come back to the rest area, and then we went back up and dug a machine hole. I was in a machine gun squad. And we had ammo parked all the way around her, in a little hole that we dug in the thing. Shot that machine gun that night until the barrel was white, you know. But we had a big minefield out in front of our position. So then when we had to pull out and go up and help another company, well, that's when all hell broke loose, you know, and we had to do the best we could do. And they told us, my section, they told us to hold this hill and take that roadblock, but anyhow, we didn't, and run out of ammo, and had one of the men got shot in his stomach and in his knee, and he was a friend of mine, but was trying to carry him out, and then the Chinese, they just overrun us, and we had to throw up our hands, you know, surrounded us, and then all this come in after that, you know. But I was saved from a lot of it. One of the men said that he seen where this one man had a tank had run over him, you know. And I didn't see that, you know. I was spared that. So, but then jets and MiGs and F-86s, they go right over top of our tank fighting, and then you'd see them MiGs hauling to the Yellow River, you know. But it was an experience that I couldn't, I mean, you know, it was worth whatever, but to me, I couldn't, well, now I couldn't anyhow. But I don't know why, you know, I felt for them boys that was in Vietnam and the prisoners. I mean, you know, and I thought about them when they was, you know, all the time. My mind was in Vietnam, my body was here, but my mind was there, and I know some of the stuff they was going through, you know, and when it was taken prisoner, it was worse, you know, it was bad. I mean, they were worse than the Chinese. Some way you find good people and bad people and all of them, you know. And some of our instructors or interpreters or whatever they were sort of grouchy, you know. And some of them was good. Now we had one, and he'd come down there and he'd hide in the room to get away from them others, you know. And he went with, they brought us down to Payment John, and they come with us, you know, and then I guess they got to go home, you know, so. But anyhow, it was, the summer wasn't too bad, you know, and the food wasn't too good, so you just had to do the best you could do, and I don't know if anybody's refused the food, you know, so, but it was something, you know, you'd have to be there to know what it was, you know. That's the only way you couldn't even realize what food that we eat. I'll tell you this woman, that's true. They had this fish that, you know, was in salt, that's the way they packed it. And they bring it out and they had them straw mats, you know, like we had over there. That's what we had on the floor that we laid on for a year. And then we built bunks, you know. But they had this fish and they put it out there and you see a little bug crawling in it. Then that night we'd have fish for supper. I swear, that's a hot thing to do. But anyhow, you know, God's good to us, you know. He really is, and it was a blessing, you know. There's so many men that didn't make it, you know. This man that lived over in North Carolina, he was the only one I knew was even alive until in Springfield, Illinois, and there was 18 of them there. Now that was you know, Christmas. But then I started going to Andersonville. And I was down there when they dedicated the museum that they got now. That year I was down there when they dedicated that. And they'd haul us prisoners, ex-prisoners of war and our who come with us in buses, go through town, and they had a parade, you know, of us and police and motorcycles and everything. If you hadn't never been to Andersonville, Georgia, and you take it because you will not regret it. The price won't mean nothing, you know, compared to what all them men at Andersonville went through, you know. I mean, they told, well, they got films on it, you know. And anyhow, I was there for about 3 or 4 years at this time. This year they canceled it on account of Pogo, whatever, 19, you know, because they didn't want to, you know, spread it or whatever. But I don't make it back no more. It's too far, 500 miles. And the last time I went down, Billy went with me to Ken Lake. You know, he went with me there one time, drove, you know, and helped me. And then I wasn't as bad as I am now. Of course, I'm, you know, getting worse. It's hard to get around, and I live by myself and fix whatever you know, my niece lives right across the street from me, and she brings my supper every night, so that's a God's blessing, you know. And it's been a good life. I can't regret nothing, you know. And the time that I spent in service, and the time I went to Korea, well, on the train when we was going from Busan to on that before we went to the second rebel depot, that's where they split us up and sent us to different outfits. And then in trains and stuff tore up along the track, and they'd have to get somebody a heart attack, you know. And that's before they even get up to the front line. But anyhow, there's a lot of hills in you know, there really are. And one night we walked all night up this hill, and we got up there, and it was like a plateau up there, you know, just level, you know. I don't know, I don't know where it was at. And the chosen reservoir, that's when they had a big battle there, and so many men lost their lives. And I was telling this man back there, I got the VFW magazine from 3 or 4 months ago, I don't know when it was, but it had, the Korean had all the battles they had won at that, and how many men they had lost, killed in action or MIA and everything. And I kept that. I said, I'm not, you know, I get the Graveyard magazine, and that's the Korean veterans, you know. And anyhow, it's been a good life, you know. God's been good to me. That's what I tell everybody, you know. And all you have to do is ask and believe, you know. You know, he's pretty good. I saw him turn away planes, you know. This little village, and that's what I said, I'm dodging in and out. Trying to come up, we was in this little village one night. I don't know where it was at. And I seen some boy was playing cards and sitting around, and I was looking out. I seen one little small plane circling around up there and acting all here coming in. I guess it's Navy planes, I don't know, or F-51s or whatever. But they come in and they threw napalm on that village and strafed it. And this one boy got both legs cut off about below his knees. And we had to leave him, see, he couldn't do it. And I know he died in a little while because he would have bled out, you know. So. But he had I let him have my little, I had the 4 Gospels. I didn't have the New Testament, I just had 4 Gospels. And I let him borrow it, and I got it back, you know, then, because he didn't need it. It was good when they signed the armistice and told us that we were coming home. Well, that's all right. If I don't have to stand up, you know, that would be good.
At this time, would everybody please stand up and salute this war hero?
At this time, we would like to present Private Emmett Harrison, our POW from Korea, from the Korean War, with a certificate of honor. And we appreciate everything that he stood for, and we appreciate him having enough faith that he could come home. And he spent 27 months as a POW. So we certainly appreciate it. And I want to present this certificate to you from our Legion, our post.